Where we last left our heroes, Danir the Catman Wizard, Nara the Drow Sorceress, and Wolfgang the Angelic Warlock had escaped from the Void, a land of eldritch abominations beyond space and time, along with the similarly trapped Arcanos, now going by Tommen Ipombus after losing pieces of his memory after a prolonged stay in the realm. With Tommen's chronomancy, he opened a portal for our heroes to return to Marmaria. Unfortunately, it was a Marmaria many, many years after the party had left for the Feywild. With no recourse, Tommen pleaded for our heroes to venture forth into the land and find an older version of himself, who presumably is still wandering the hellscape in which they find themselves. The village of Amberglade now found itself in the center of what has become to be known as Needhog's Desolation, a territory controlled by a powerful red dragon the party had encountered long ago. In their travels back to Dragon's Rest, our heroes came face to face with a pair of scouting demons out on a hunt, and vanquished them with relative ease due to their newly acquired powers. They also found the quarry which the demons were hunting in the form of Demetrius Kench, the now full-grown child of Barristan Kench and the Inquisitrix Vileblood. He revealed himself as a captain within the Order of the Caelum Diaboli, and after a tense battle with a larger, angrier, hornier demon, Danir managed to open a teleportation circle that should lead them back to the Academy of the Arcane Innate in Dragon's Rest. Did the portal do its job? And what else has the party missed since leaving the land decades ago? So as the portal swirls shut behind you, you find yourself in a very cramped space. It's dark, kind of musty, and filled with, like, various pieces of furniture. It looks like this room's been used for storage, as Kench is just kind of like kneeling on the ground, just kind of slamming his fist against the ground after losing another group of his men.
Wolfgang's just going to look around the room briefly, trying to do a head count, see if everybody's there. Obviously, sans the Caelum Diaboli members who didn't make it.
As your eyes adjust to the darkness, which is relatively simple considering you have dark vision, you see that this room has, this space, which already is not incredibly large. You're in a room that's maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, and you're all kind of crammed into the center of it, as there are like bits of furniture, like with like kind of tarps covering it, an old table which Danir actually kind of like had to crouch and land on as he jumped through, and other people needed to leap through. You guys have made it, but the unfortunate member that got picked up by the Wyvern and the one that just did not make it through the portal did not. So it is you, along with one member of the Caelum and Demetrius Kench.
Damn it.
You hear a voice from beyond the room you're in. Is somebody there? It's a middle-aged female voice coming from beyond a doorway that's kind of sitting at the only open end of this, what you're guessing is now a storage space.
Danir slips past everybody and he opens the door.
As you reach for the door, it kind of slowly, like, the handle itself starts to move and starts to get kind of like pulled, and you're kind of taken like along with it. You find yourself face to face with a middle-aged woman. Her hair slightly graying, kind of held in like a loose top knot on top of her head. She's dressed modestly in robes that appear to indicate some form of authority within this space that she's in. The room beyond is very modestly decorated. There's a desk, few pieces of drapery on the walls. It's all fairly shabby looking, but as she looks at you, Denier, her face like goes from shock to a softer shock, and she glances around, sees Wolfgang, looks over to Wolfgang, looks back to you, and the shock of people showing up in her closet seems to kind of dissipate as tears kind of begin to well in her eyes as she takes like several steps back and just kind of like puts both of her hands up to her chin in this like claw-like motion. Impossible.
Does this woman look familiar, Lani?
Give me a history check with advantage.
Okie doke.
Would all of us be able to, or at least me and Denier?
Wolfgang, you might also as well, but Denier with a
25.
15.
Even to Wolfgang. Well, this would also be with advantage for you, Wolfgang.
20.
So this woman is older than you, Wolfgang. And like, but as time has gone on, there are like new lines, the hair is faded, but the structure, this is the face of Abigail Lafleur, the girl that you rescued long, long, long ago.
I knew you had it in you. I appreciate you keeping the teleportation circle safe for us.
Teleportation circle?
Emotions behind him. Palto had a secret teleportation circle in there for the highest members of the school to be able to slip in and out easily enough when we need to.
You're probably wondering how we got here.
She faints.
Oh.
Oh, okay then. Wolfgang, help me into her seat.
Denier.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go over and lift her up. You know, for someone who is aspiring to be a bard, you sure know how to say the wrong things at the wrong time. Although I want to talk. I'm just fanning her face with my hand.
She's still breathing, but it's clear that she's very overwhelmed by all of this information at once. You hear a knocking at the door, kind of like a heavy... Everything all right in there, Mom?
Nora smiles really big, knowing this is really bad and not her fault.
Wake up. I'll just give her a light pat on the cheek.
Go ahead and give me a medical check.
Abigail, that's gonna be really weird. Medicine check. Natural 1.
So you're like,
it's good to be back. Roll 20.
You start to panic, and you just wind up and slap her across the face as the door opens.
Oh no!
Oh Jesus!
No.
And this guy, well, it can only be described as decked out in like Templar-like armor, like runes kind of covering the front of his armor. Going over this cowl that's over this de-visored helmet. He sees you slap this woman, immediately walks in. Stand down! How did you get in here?
Whoa, we teleported. Hang on, I was just trying to wake her up.
He shouts back into the hallway, and you
all right.
start hearing shuffling as he unsheaths his sword and just like holds like the broadside straight forward. Release the lady.
We never had anything where we were never keeping her against her will at all. We're old friends of hers, and she'll attest to that.
She still has like a red mark on the side of her face from where you slapped her. She's still
Oh,
breathing
that's gonna
very
hurt.
shallowly as she's unconscious.
Nara's like grinning ear to ear, looking from this paladin dude back to Wolfgang and back.
What are you so happy about? You're part of this too.
You start
Yeah,
to.
look up like you did just now.
You hear the trunching of boot stomps as they're like kind of coming down the hallway. The ramble of confusion following them. Step away. The runes on his sword begin to glow a bit as he says this.
Okay. And Wolfgang will raise his hands and he'll step back and he'll grab Danir's shoulder and he'll push him back as well.
Explain yourselves.
That's gonna take a long time.
Well, probably.
Demetrius.
If I
just kind of
told you-
like, Dimitri just kind of like shakes himself from his morning stupor.
If I told you we're with it.
I can clarify everything. Put the blade away.
Yeah.
He glances over and he sees the symbol of the Kylum. And the runes on his sword stop glowing, but he doesn't put the sword away. By this point, a couple more guards come in to flank this one. Each of them kind of girded in similar armor. Both very confused. One of them looks like he just kind of snapped out of a stupor and might be he's just kind of like wobbling a little bit.
What? Who of them is?
Drinking on the job.
One of the guards that wandered in. You're traveling with the Kylum. Explain yourself.
Well, this is going to sound pretty far-fetched, but my name is Wolfgang Connolly.
Well, one of the guards scoffs a little. Right. He kind of like catches your eye, and I'm guessing you're just giving him this like I'm fucking serious glare.
I look at him like, let me finish.
So he just kind of like rolls his eyes. All right.
And so the emblem of the Kyle Diabole, right? Does that look the same as the one that I designed?
What does the one you designed look like? I don't think I ever.
It is sort of. It has the general shape of like a shield.
Mm-hmm.
It's got words in celestial script that say, "We are the light that shines in the darkness."
It looks like the words got a little bit mangled over time as they had to try to like reproduce this, and not many speak Celestial. But
fair enough.
The sigil itself is very much intact.
Mm. I'm assuming I've got one as well, so I'll take mine out and I'll show that it's like pristine.
They glance forward. Go ahead and give me a persuasion with advantage.
Training range.
All right. And you vouch for him? He looks over to Dimitri. I do. I don't 100% trust them yet, but they haven't done anything to raise my suspicion further. He sheaths his sword. If anything happens, it's on you then. Right. May we? And he kind of like gestures towards the door, which everybody else is kind of crowded by now.
I look at Abigail. Is she still like on the floor, or does someone have her at this point?
I assume you guys moved her to her chair.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would have just backed up as soon as they told me to, but if they let us, I'll get her to a comfortable place.
Yeah, I assume as she was like, after she fell, you guys kind of lifted her in there, and like by the time you're like trying to wake her up and slapped her, that's when the door opened. The two guards that were like standing in the door kind of like separate a little bit, giving you some space. The head guard, the one that was just outside the door, the one that was holding the sword at you, keeps a very cautious eye on you, but does kind of like step to the side.
What a bloody mess.
You have no idea, Demetrius says.
I take it she's the new headmistress of the academy?
She's the caretaker, yes.
Good. I'm glad that it fell into capable hands after we left.
As capable as we've got.
Glad to see it's still around. A lot of old memories in here. Where we're looking for Marmaria Wizzlestein.
Well, if she's looking
Do you know
for
where
you,
she
I'm
is?
sure she'll find you.
Fair enough.
For now, I need to take you back to the Kylum. As I said, I have no reason to distrust you. But there's a lot of reason to distrust everyone. We just need to sort some things out. If you're amenable to this, it'll be easier. Kench says, as he's still trying to, like, collect himself from the trauma that just underwent his entire team.
Yeah. I think we can accommodate.
I have no problems with it.
I think we all need to sort some stuff out.
Yeah, we do. Come along. And Demetrius will start to find his way out of this place. He's actually never really been to this level of the academy.
Daenerys will actually give him instructions on where to go. Given Daenerys' knowledge of the layout.
And as they're leaving the room, Nara's gonna really look over the one that's kind of staggered, the soldier that kind of staggered into the room.
It's pretty easy to notice that his eyes have consistently been glancing towards you this time.
What?
So, nothing. There's a sickly kind of like sweetness to his breath as he speaks.
Sickly sweetness. Would I recognize this sickly sweetness?
perception check, you might.
20.
It's some form of wine. He's definitely been drinking.
She just like eyes him real intense, like leans in at him, and then walks away.
As you like lean in really intense, he starts to kind of like sway back and forth, and as you walk away, he's like leaning forward like, is she trying to kiss me? And then he kind of falls down as you walk away.
She just like laughs to herself like
You just kind of hear from behind you as you guys are walking down the hall. It's like, God damn it, Jenkins, have you been drinking again? Get up, you fucking lot. You make your way through the academy. Denier, it's a little different than how you remember. There are, like, you kind of have to walk through the dormitory area as this entire building, which was once, like, mostly classrooms, several of the floors have been, or at least one of the floors was converted into dormitory space. Not entirely sure why yet, but each of the rooms are kind of like, the halls are separated first by like gender. One half of the floor is male, the other half is female, and then bunks are separated by age group. And some of the people in the older bunks are resting a bit uneasily. You can tell as you're kind of like walking through. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of shifting and kind of like sleep, like there's like some light sleep talk happening, just mutterances.
How many sorcerers are in the school now?
Are you asking that aloud?
No, I'm asking from what we're observing.
I can give you a vague guesstimate based on a perception check.
Okay. I will make that perception check. That is a 16.
At least a couple dozen as far as you can tell.
It's good to see the old school still being used.
No other place to put them.
How has the relationship between the Arcanonate and everybody else been faring over the years? Back in our day, it wasn't exactly great. That's why we made the school.
Let's just say it's not a whole lot better.
That's not what I like to hear, but make do with what you can, I suppose, right?
There's a lot of evidence that indicates that many of the demons and devils we've been fighting came from them.
What?
Born of something, some unawakened energy. Something that just kind of snaps in them and they start changing. They're either strong enough to beat it or they aren't. Either way, the only place we can keep them is a place where we can dampen their power. And he points up at the walls where you recognized near the kind of magic dampening sigils all over the hallways. So if something does happen, they can be put down without incident.
So this school is essentially a prison.
Use whatever words make you feel comfortable. It's necessary. If they were out there on their own, we'd have more of those things to deal with. And at least here they have a chance of becoming... of being... normal.
Can I cast Detect Magic and look at one of the sorcerers?
Is your Detect Magic an innate magic ability, or is it like, or does it behave as the
It
spell?
It is an Eldritch Invocation. It is my Eldritch Sight ability, which I've renamed to Angelic Sight.
Yeah.
It basically lets me cast the spell at will, but
it's kind of like as you are attempting to draw from this power within you, these runes seem to kind of like expressly try to inhibit that.
Ugh. Huh. Of course they would. Don't know why I never noticed.
We try magic.
Something like that.
Interesting that the runes would stop yours. They're meant to stop surges from happening.
They needed to be bolstered after a time. Made stronger, especially in this area where they sleep. That appears to be when the most incidents occur. Anyway, this way. And he continues to lead you down the stairs and outside. Outside, in the streets of Dragon's Rest, the layout itself seems relatively familiar to you, but due to the dimmer lights of the sun, the kind of like pinkish hue, the primary source of light for this town actually seems to come from Platinum Peak itself, where, again, as you were now significantly closer to it, you look up down towards the southeast, or the southwest. It is this massive, radiant plume of fire that seems to be coming directly from the peak. The streets themselves, all of the cobblestones on the road, they're all kind of fractured. Like there's several bricks missing here and there. Large patches of the street have actually been torn up in order to rebuild buildings. It seems like at least one more large battle has happened in this city itself since they had to rebuild after what was essentially the birth of Needhog.
Jesus.
Several buildings are kind of like half complete now, but the ones that are still have people kind of roaming around. There is still life in the streets here. It's just very sparse and mostly soldiers. You don't see many actual citizens roaming the streets of Dragon's Rest these days. Everybody that you see has this kind of like grizzled look about them, and kind of like a forlorn look in their eyes. Most that pass you give you like a kind of like a cautionary glance. And as you wander through the streets, you do eventually find yourself in the main square that you've been so familiar with. Again, this place, the inn that once contained Asmo's apartment, place that you remember very well, Nara, that place has been basically gutted for materials. And the meat house no longer stands where it used to.
She just kind of... She sombers a little bit after laughing at the chaos of earlier. Now she's reminded of multiple things. Gives a quick, disgruntled look at Wolfgang, and then keeps walking.
You eventually find yourselves at the compound of the Kylum Diaboli. It's been bolstered a bit since your day, Wolfgang. Significantly more fortified. You're guessing in case of another incursion. There are more buildings built around it. It now has a gatehouse. And several buildings that you assume might function as dormitories or training facilities. It's been spread out to almost like a city's block worth of a campus, basically. And a lot of the material that you've seen ripped up and ripped out of houses appears to have been repurposed for rebuilding this space. Which,
Hello?
There he is.
Did we lose you? Sorry. A lot of it
We
appears
lost you.
to have...
Yeah, you lost you.
Well, a lot of the building material that you saw ripped up and ripped out throughout the city appears to have been repurposed for rebuilding this space specifically. As you walk through the gatehouse, a few of the Kylum members who were standing by instantly salute as they notice Demetrius walking towards them. Welcome back, sir. Demetrius nods to them. We're gonna need cells. Do we have some free? He glances at the three of you that are traveling with him. We
Wait,
should have
what?
some, sir. As you say that, Nara, Demetrius kind of glances back at you. And just kind of pleads with his eyes, like, don't make this harder than it has to be.
Why do we get put in jail?
It's a precaution.
For what?
It's not jail. They're just holding us in the light till they can verify we are who we say we are.
Jail.
Call it
I lean in and I like grab her shoulder and I pull her closer. Just go along with it. We can leave anytime we want to. Come on.
Go ahead and give me a
Please.
stealth. Go ahead and give me a stealth check real quick when you're whispering, Wolfgang.
Here I go. Hey, 20.
Okay. You don't think anybody hears you.
I don't think anybody hears.
You don't
me.
think anyone hears you.
Gotcha.
He thinks he's real stealthy.
Of course, I could have said the same thing if you rolled the 5 on that other side. Just like walk up to her.
Yeah.
Look, we can leave anytime we want, okay? Just shoosh.
No one told me. No one told me that I was gonna have to sit in a box while they figure out what they're gonna do. What does that even help?
Demetrius turns around. Look. I don't think you mean harm. I don't think you're lying. But there have been a lot of attempts on the Master's life. And if I'm wrong, if I am wrong about you, I will have to deal with that. So for now, help me.
Wolfgang bristles noticeably at that.
Who's the master?
She crosses her arms and looks at him.
Who indeed?
Nara, come on.
I don't like this. Something feels off.
We'll be fine.
You've said that before.
She glares at him.
Just sort of looks back and then looks over to Dimitri.
The gate guard looks at Dimitri. Am I going to need to call backup, sir? Are you? And he looks at Nara.
Fine. But I'm not waiting long in there.
I'll have you out in a jiffy, love.
Hmm.
And he kind of holds his arm forward. Backup won't be necessary. And he turns to the one remaining soldier that's been following along, who's just had this kind of like dead look on his face the whole time. Dimitri walks up to him, clasps a hand on his shoulder. Pharos. He kind of like smacks his cheek a little bit and kind of comes out of his stupor a little. Go get yourself a drink. Just shallowly nods and starts wandering into the Kylum campus. This way. Dimitri begins to lead you back towards a space that's used to kind of function as like a set of like stables, but has now been geared up as a like set of temporary holding facilities. It's been very well put together. Like each of these rooms seems incredibly secure, each separated off by their own space. It's kind of in this old barn-looking building. There appear to be like a number of rooms in here. In fact, as you walk in, there's this small menagerie of magical creatures that have been gathered in cages for study or just for detainment. In fact, one of the enclosures is actually fairly recognizable. It is a displacer beast, kind of mature in age by now. But it is very reminiscent of a hunt you led long ago with some students from this very academy.
Oh, I wonder how they're doing.
Dimitri leads each of you to your own holding space. After gathering what your particular abilities were, each of these walls are lined with anti-magic runes. And you're each left into... Well, actually, no. You're each left in one cell specifically. So, all three of you are in one space together.
Before walking in, Daenerys does not look happy at all. But as soon as he gets in, he immediately starts examining the rooms.
All right. Kench does notice your displeasure. It's fairly palpable in the air, especially from Nara.
Oh, Nara is seething right now.
Like I said, I believe you. I feel I'm a pretty good judge of character. But I can't be wrong here. I hope you understand. And the door slides shut and locks. And you're left to your own devices for now. Daenerys, you can go ahead and give me an arcane check to examine the runes.
Okie doke. After he walks off, Daenerys mutters to himself, "Not the first time I've been thrown in jail by a kinch." 16.
These are very well crafted. Each of them are very strong elven runes of power. Unless you have the proper material to mess with what they are etched in, you're not going to be able to cast any spells in here.
In Daenerys' mind, will what he did previously in Silver Rock work of, if he needs to, modifying the runes to at least break the ability by changing the runes just a little bit?
You feel like if you had enough time and could find the materials necessary to carve into the steel that these things are these things are laid into, you might be able to adjust some of these runes enough to undo their seal. Go ahead and give me another Arcana check.
Okie doke. 21.
It would be a arduous process to make sure you do it without the person who crafted this knowing that you did it, though. There are efforts in place that would alert to tampering, but you do believe that you'd be able to work around that as well, so long as you had the materials to do so.
What is this cell made out of, material-wise?
Around you, there is a decent amount of concrete, steel. The door appears to be at least lined with wood, or but the core of it seemed to be steel, as it looked quite heavy.
Okay.
So yeah, Daenerys, given time and materials, you could probably undo these runes without detection.
He doesn't have a reason to right now, so he's going to sit down. He's going to pull out the Sylvan Words of Power book, and he's just going to start opening it. But he glances over towards Wolfgang. I think the sorcerers are being attacked via their dreams. That's why they're changing in the middle of the night.
I had the same thought.
That's your expertise, though, right, Denier?
Which means once we go back, I'm going to have to stand guard or safeguard over them to make sure they don't change.
What do you mean, go back?
We're not staying here permanently, obviously.
I mean, I hope. But not really holding my breath for it.
Sometimes hope is all you can have, Nora.
I guess.
She's gonna start examining the bars and the door for any structural weaknesses.
All right, go ahead and give me an investigation check.
Okay. 4.
This place is very well constructed. I mean, given the purpose of this space, they have put a lot of effort into this. Granted, you had not had a lot of time to look at the other spaces, but this room in particular is incredibly well fortified. The door that closed behind you is absolutely seamless. It slid shut from the side. There's no hinges on it for you to mess with. No openings for which you could maybe even try to get to the lock that's on the outside. It looks as though it's almost like a solid wall in front of you.
Oh, God. That's about how thick?
As you were walking in, your best estimate would be maybe about somewhere between 3 and 6 inches thick.
Okay.
You start to hear some footfalls kind of wandering towards your location, and the muffled sound of people talking outside.
will listen intently.
Go ahead and give me a perception check.
22.
You hear a gruff voice, kind of like the one that sounds like it's kind of like trouncing out ahead, being argued with by two other voices, one male, one female. The first thing you are able to hear when you're kind of like tuning into it is the female voice saying, "There's no guarantee, sir, but nothing! I need to make sure myself. I need to see with my own eyes." And as the footfalls kind of like wander up to the door, you hear the like kind of you hear a pound against the outside, and the door kind of like slides up slightly. You hear the, and then a portion of the wall slides away, creating sort of a window with bars kind of in between you. And as you look over, Wolfgang, you see a face that is like relatively unchanged with time to you, just given the fact that these dwarves seem to age a bit slower than humans.
Yes, smiles.
You see the dyed hair with the deep red roots on his face, and the big red nose of Pogan staring at you.
Pogan, you old cuss, I knew they wouldn't get to you.
Hasn't changed a fucking day. Whose dick do you gotta kick to do that? Jesus!
As it turns out, quite a few people.
Sir, again, we're not entirely sure this isn't some sort of trick. Of course it could be a fucking trick! But I know this man pretty well. Helped him build this whole place.
Just sort of straightens up.
How's about a little one-on-one chat, shall we?
I think that'd be fine.
Is that amenable to you? And he looks over to Denier and Denara.
Sure, why not? We're here.
I've got no qualms with it.
With any luck, this chat'll help me get you two out faster.
Just have to clear up a few things. That's all.
Right.
I've got my books. So don't worry about me.
He looks at the guard very suspiciously. You didn't take their materials? Captain Kench didn't see fit to. Oh, and Captain Kench runs the prison, does he? No, sir. I didn't fucking think so. The meek gentleman just kind of like backs down, just like kind of like hunches his shoulders. He looks over to the woman. You've been promoted. You're head warden. Oh, god damn it. The window slides shut, and the door opens, and he just kind of waves you forward, Wolfgang. Come along.
See, you didn't get any easier on them.
You have to get harder these days, apparently.
That's fair enough. Circumstances being what they are.
Being what they are. And as Wolfgang walks out, Pogan nods to the two of you, and the door sinks back down into the floor. Come along, this way. And Pogan leads you back towards the center of the campus, the building that you remember building way back in the day. You pass by the training yards, where there are a lot more students here than there were previously. It seems probably out of necessity, given how the world has shifted. But eventually he leads you, kind of like wordlessly, as he's just kind of like letting you absorb this stuff, to what was essentially your old office. slightly different of decor these days. The wood is significantly more aged. Desk itself looks like it's been replaced. And, but the place is very clean. And on the walls, as you're kind of like walking down the hall to this room, there are oil paintings hanging. One of yourself, one of Miguel, one of Pogan. And as you enter the room, he kind of like waves his hand, and the door, similarly to the cell, just kind of like slams shut and kind of like locks down into place.
Have a seat if you wouldn't mind.
He gestures over to a relatively comfy looking chair.
He'll nod and slowly turn his head away from the door. Technology. And he'll sit down. It's weird being on this side of the desk.
It was weird for a while being on this side of it, I'll say. You left quite a sizable set of shoes to fill.
He sort of looks down the floor, takes off his hat. I wasn't supposed to be gone this long.
What happened?
Where do I begin?
Miguel said that you died hunting the jester.
He raises an eyebrow and looks up at that.
It was the only conclusion we could come to. You went out. You didn't come back. He did.
Well, clearly, as you can see, that is not quite what happened.
Then do clarify. 'Cause you showing up does raise a lot of questions, I'm afraid, sir.
For the sake of brevity, do you want me to just say that I tell him everything?
Yeah, I guess for the sake of brevity, is there anything that you would keep to yourself?
I am not leaving out any
information.
I'm not leaving out anything. I trust Pogan.
Okay.
That is quite the tale.
Pretty far-fetched, if I have to say so myself, just saying it from my lips, but that's what happened.
Pogan's ears kind of perk for a moment. Wolfgang, you could actually probably give me a perception check here as well.
Ooh. Natural 20.
Oh my god.
As his ears perk, you kind of hear this kind of rumbling in this air, this as it it's not as loud as I am making it sound, but that's this this percussive sound that kind of cuts off.
Stay here a moment, if you would.
And Pogan stands up and kind of goes to the door, glances back at you. Still very confused, but he you can tell in his heart that he at the very least wants to believe what you were saying. And the door slides shut behind him. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
He's just gonna say he'll nod at him silently.
All right, and with that, the door. And you hear Pogan kind of stomping away. I'll let the perception check ride as another set of footfalls start to sound like they're approaching his. and you just hear it's a little too far away for like the hushed voices, but you hear a man's voice speaking to Pogan.
You don't...
Seems to get slightly the situation seems to kind of get a little bit aggravated.
If it is what it is, then I'm going to fucking say myself. You might not want to...
And the door opens, and standing in the doorway, in a very familiar long white duster, long white kind of like chapped pants, is a dark-haired mirror of yourself. Just kind of silently stands there, mouth slightly agape, with this not necessarily disdainful look in his eyes, but this kind of like angry confusion. You hear Pogan walking up behind. If you'll just let me have a few more... He walks in and presses the door, and it locks behind him. He silently kind of like paces around the room for a moment, just glancing at you. His hair kind of like dark, long, and wild. He's got this fairly thick 5 o'clock shadow that frames this goatee.
Wolfgang will slowly rise up out of his seat.
There have been...
Hey, pup. It's been a while.
Fuck.
Kind of bites his lower lip a bit, just like you can see this tenseness kind of radiating throughout his body.
There have been a lot of sick fucking tricks to try to get me isolated over the years. And if this is one of them, then bra fucking vo. 'Cause it's a new fucking level.
Should have never let that snake bastard swear around you. Picked up a bad habit.
I picked up a lot of bad habits.
He sits down at the desk, reaches beneath the desk itself. On his person, by the way, as he's kind of like shifting around, you see at his hip a very large gun. Like, it looks like it must have like 2 barrels side to side, maybe about like 3 or 4 inches longer than Requiem. A very ornately carved kind of ivory handle. And at his other hip appears to be the hilt of a sword.
Does the sword look familiar?
No, it does not at
Okay.
all. Like it all you can see is kind of like this very ornate handguard that appears to be made out of platinum, or at least a very, very clean silver metal.
Okay.
And as he sits down at the desk, he reaches beneath.
Well, whether or not you are my father.
He pulls out this decanter of, like, this half-drunk decanter of whiskey.
This is gonna take a lot of whiskey.
And here's where we'll take a break. Hey guys, Lani here. I just wanted to thank you for rolling with us. And if you wanted to catch us live, you can do so almost every Monday at 5 o'clock Central Time over on twitch.tv/Lanipator. Now, back to the show. Nara and Denier. It's been... in order for you to have, like, really talked to Pogan, it was probably going to be about, like, you know, at least 15 minutes of you trying to tell everything that you needed to tell.
Oh, that was gonna take so much more time than that. You can't tell all that story in 15 minutes.
Like I said, it's gonna take some time. So you guys have just kind of been chilling for a hot minute in the stable jail.
Mm-hmm.
But you, as you're kind of in that meanwhile, have you guys just been just chilling, or?
Daenerys been reading the Sylvan Words of Power book, and if the Giant's ambrosia hasn't gone bad yet, since it's only been a couple days, he's probably sipping on that.
Eventually, you hear they're the footfalls of somebody that's like significantly lighter, kind of surrounded by a few soldiers as they approach your cell. A number of them kind of questioning.
I'm not sure this is the best idea in the world. We're still not entirely sure.
Enough. Let me be. I must speak with them. And sure enough, the window once again opens up, and Daenerys peering inside, you see the unaged face of Venariel Wizelstein.
He glances up from his book, mid-sip of the fruit, as he just perks up a little bit and grins. Oh, hey there, Ven. Good to see you.
It was good to hear from you.
Figured out of anybody around, anyone to reach out to, you'd be the one.
You've been gone for some time. All of you have. Everyone thought you were dead.
Feywild and time. You know how it is.
I can't say that I do.
He reaches up to his collar where the sigil of Arcanos is, and he turns it to show her. Arcanos was nice.
Is he still alive?
The last I saw, he was. Palto led an assault on Lona Throned. Arcanos triggered a trap.
So that's what happened to the overgrowth.
What do you mean?
She projects forth a major image in the room. You see yourself kind of like standing, as if you're kind of like standing on the surface of a map. You see the mist kind of swirling around the mountain, as it had, in the overgrowth.
Survivors' accounts are rare, as there were not many, but those in Wild's Edge that did survive.
You see as the mist begins to very, it slowly at first begins to recede towards the mountain. And as it all swallows up into the rocks hanging above, there's this flash of white, and the mountain and the surrounding area just obliterated by this massive arcane explosion.
Nara immediately begins petting little ass. Little ass.
We barely got out ourselves. We held Ramses during the trap's triggering. We We got tossed into what I can only describe as the space between worlds. I don't know how long we were fighting our way to get back. Last I saw, Ramses was still there.
Still, where exactly?
That's just it. A space between worlds where all of us were stretched out an infinite way, but compressed at the same time. The three of us managed to pull ourselves together, where we found ourselves in what I could only describe as the void, a place without time. The place the squid faces called home.
Squid faces.
He holds a hand over his face, with his fingers almost representing tentacles. Creatures with the heads of squids that prefer to take nourishment by ripping the brains out of their victims. They seem to have a hive mind with their great leader, which is a large, massive brain, which has ties to the dream world. We had to steal information from them in order to get back. They tried to invade the world. They tried to invade Marmaria. We almost lost Wolfgang trying to push him back.
And we lost Asmo in the process. For now.
She cocks an eyebrow at that. Really?
When Ramses invaded Lono Throne, it would appear that he had two targets. One of them was Asmo.
Yes.
He also took Fezziwig with the spirit of the Jester. But we managed to hold him behind.
And so they managed to avoid the destruction.
Yes. The Jester's great scheme. He wants the body of the Red Dragon. He wants to take it for his own. His final plan is to destroy death so he can have a world where he can warp and manipulate things to his whim and then just send him out in the world.
Well, you have one piece wrong. He didn't need Asmo.
What?
He needs the blood of a Connolly.
So what happened to Asmo then?
He's alive.
How do you know?
There are many things little birdies tell me.
Like who?
Some of the same birdies that speak to him. It would not be wise to see him right now.
Why? What does that mean?
He's in the middle of something very dangerous.
Can we help him?
I don't know. But the fact that you've shown up at all tells me that hope isn't dead. Meanwhile, back at the Kylum Diaboli main office. There's currently a glass of whiskey sitting in front of you, Wolfgang. Elliot has poured himself one of his own.
He'll look down at it and then look back up at Elliot, and slowly he'll reach out and grab it.
I already know you're not a demon unless your lot are immune to holy water these days. Kench said at least 2 of you drank from it. No reaction.
Ah. He looks down and sort of swirls it in the glass. Clever. He'll take a sip.
It's a very it's a very robust whiskey. Very, like almost close to kind of like a bourbon in terms of like what it was aged in.
Ooh, yummy.
So the question I have to figure out is, are you an assassin wearing his face? Another one of the humans that's turned to the side of the ones that'll pay better.
Wolfgang will set the glass down on the table. And I will spread my wings.
You're luminous, radiant, still fairly translucent, but the radiant fire outline of each feather shows on your back as your eyes kind of flicker and glow. Elliot stands up, and you can see one of the reasons that his duster is so tattered as from his back, two fully corporeal wings emerge from his spine.
Oh, fuck! Wolfgang just looks in surprise.
That's about the expression.
He kind of like walks towards you and like holds his hands out towards the wings, feeling their like burning radiance.
Well, it's not an illusion. It's all right. Until further notice. Hi, Dad. Where have you been?
Son, I never wanted this for you. It started when we went to the Feywild.
Uncle Miguel
The mist-
told me that you died hunting the Blood Elf.
The Blood Elf. I guess that's what they're calling him now.
Seems a more appropriate name to me. Others call him the Jester.
That's the name we know him by. As you can see, that isn't exactly true. We were spirited away to this strange dimension that was under the control of a beholder and a giant brain.
His eyes kind of like crinkle a bit.
Right.
Can I insight that? Does he not believe me?
You can go ahead, roll an insight. He's not really trying to hide his emotions, so
22.
he's just trying to put together, like, you can tell that he has hunted all sorts of creatures, many of which you probably haven't seen, but this is one that it's kind of not ringing a bell to him.
I'll pull out the monster manual, and I will set it in front of him.
You pull out the monster manual and you turn it to page 28, and there it is. You pull out your book, and you kind of show him and describe to him exactly what it is, what it does, and how petulant it was.
Seems there are all sorts of monsters out there beyond the ones I've fought too. But I guess that's the world. There's always a new monster, isn't there?
Apparently.
So you were trapped in this place. But I guess getting out, time was a bit fucky.
He just winces every time he says fuck. He shakes his head a little bit. We had the help of a very powerful ally. But the manipulation of time isn't an exact science. I think we simply ended up in the wrong time. Perhaps a miscalculation. I don't know. Maybe our guide wasn't quite strong enough to put us back where we belong, but the world you're living in now is the result of all that.
World I'm living in now. Make it sound like you can change it.
I don't know if I can change the world. But making the world a better place for you was my entire reason for doing what I did. This. And he just gestures to everything. This feels like my greatest failure.
He points at the wings on your back.
Those things work.
As much as yours, probably.
Come on, old man. Keep up.
And he starts leading you out to the courtyard. Pogan's still kind of standing outside the room.
Not now. Right?
I give Pogan a look like, sorry.
He's still carrying like the whiskey decanter like between two fingers in one of his hands too. And it makes his way out to the courtyard and whoosh, takes off into the air.
I'll follow him.
You guys begin to fly over the remainder of Dragon's Rest from a bird's eye view. As the day has worn on, moved into evening, there are far fewer lights than you remember of just people living in the city. They're much more kind of like condensed around certain areas, and a majority of them are kind of around the Kylum and slightly surrounding areas where you're guessing people have just kind of like set up like small spaces, like living spaces and communal dining areas. The city of Dragon's Rest, which once probably housed thousands of people, is maybe down to a few hundred. And as you fly past the absolute decimation of the palace, which doesn't look like it had ever been fully recovered from the attack of Needhog decades and decades ago, you see that he's leading you up towards Platinum Peak, towards the bright, bright light in the sky. You're close enough to still converse with him. You're able to kind of like catch up with him as he's not trying to race you or anything.
Not as you remember it, I take it.
Not at all.
It's been through a lot. Some of it's my fault, I'm afraid.
Your fault. What do you mean by that?
You'd be proud, Pop. I'm public enemy number 1 with the enemy side.
Well, you're a Connolly, all right. That much we knew when you were a babe.
It's funny. I don't remember a lot. But as soon as I saw your face, I remembered. I remember the tone of your voice. I remember warmth.
As you fly up above the city, you land at the very peak of the monastery, the giant radiant burning pyre burning behind you as he kind of sits down, dangling his feet off a cliff base and looks down at the city.
I hated you for a while, you know.
I can understand that.
I was young. I didn't understand. All I know is something scary wanted me dead. Master Pogan. Miguel. Everyone at the Kylum, they swooped me up. Hid me. And I was trained to fight. Basically, just after I could walk.
Wolfgang balls his hand into a fist. What happened to Jamaat?
The Blood Elf. The first time he came for me. Luckily, he held him off long enough for everyone else to sweep me away. I didn't know him very well, but he sounded like an amazing man.
One of the best I ever knew.
My condolences. I had him buried next to the plot where we, memorialized you. Seemed fitting.
So I've got a grave too.
A memorial. Little different. No bones.
Hmm.
You can see him kind of like trembling as he like looks up in the sky. There is a full moon out.
Elliot.
Yeah.
The moon. Are you...
Kind of gives you like a smile. One of his incisors looks a bit longer than normal, and his pupils have kind of like slitted a little.
Yeah. We have people in Needhog's camp. When I was, well, going through the change that all boys go through, mine was a bit more drastic.
Wolfgang looks down to this side. I'll be sure to keep note of that.
Luckily, with the people we knew in Needhog's camp, we were able to smuggle a few of our cousins across, and they taught me how to handle what was happening.
The lycanthropes from Oasis.
Yes. Jamaat had kept a very litigious set of notes. Made mention of them. Said you had
Good
mentioned
man.
it.
Good man.
They helped me control it. And I guess all the power in my blood kind of helps hone it a little further. Kind of hard to howl at the moon when you're radiating sunlight.
No, I suppose not.
They taught me well. That's actually around the time I found the Kench boy. Just a little snot-nosed kid being harassed by demons, and I wasn't gonna stand for that. So I tore him to fucking shreds.
And he like takes another swig of whiskey as he kind of hands the bottle towards you.
I'll grab the bottle and take a swig myself. About Kench. Does he have any strange abilities about him?
Oh, you mean the fact that he's a Dompier?
That? On top of anything else?
Boy's still learning. He's become a good man.
Reminds me a little bit of you.
He'd take that as a compliment. I'm not sure I would. This may be weird to ask, but how old are you?
34.
I'm older than my own man. 35.
Damn
By the
it.
turn of the moon, anyway. So is there any worldly advice I could give you, young man?
Oh. Stop it, you. Don't make me talk back to my elders.
Do you think you actually could turn all this back?
I don't know. At the very least, I need to get back to the time that we belong to. So that at least in some reality, none of this has to happen. That we can all have a better outcome than this. I didn't want this life for you, Elliot. I tried so hard to keep you away from this. This isn't the world I wanted you to inherit.
Hasn't all been bad. I fell in love.
My little boy. Who's the lucky one?
Daenerys and Nara.
I fucking knew it! I fucking knew it!
The door
Oh, boy.
opens, and standing before you is a very pregnant Venariel.
Ha ha ha!
Ah,
Daenerys smiles just a little bit wider. He closes his book, puts it away, and slowly stands up. Good to see. Go ahead, Lenny.
Oh, I'll let you finish what you were saying first.
So I see you finally found somebody, huh?
She looks down and just kind of like it puts a hand on her stomach, almost kind of like forgetting that this would be a reveal to you. Yes, he's very strong and brave, but the fact that you made it back here. You were able to travel through dimensions. Did you tell her that it was because of Arcanos? I don't think you did in your retelling.
You showed the sigil.
I did show the sigil. I would have basically told her, long story short, I would have told her everything. I assume that we're just jumping around back and forth.
By tell her everything, did you also tell Tom's parting words before you leapt through the portal into this realm?
I would say so.
You believe you can change everything.
Daenerys gives a couple nods. I don't know what it would do for this time, though. Time is strange. I hope that would just rewrite the past. But timelines are strange. I don't know if this would just be another timeline, if this would never happen, or what. It's all theories at this point, but I think we can do it. We just have to find him.
She kind of holds her hand over her stomach and just kind of looks down, pondering the conundrum of what exactly would happen if shit was rewritten.
Is that an apparent thing?
She
Of
doesn't
what
know.
her
Does-
internal
well,
process is? I mean,
you can tell she's pondering something.
okay.
She looks back up towards you. So you need to find this.
Daenerys nods.
You need to find Arcanos. Again, who has been wandering the world this whole time, I guess.
Correct.
that seems to be his thing.
And you believe he'll help.
He's helped before. It's just a matter of convincing him. But he did also tell me something else. He told me, he motions towards the staff, that this is one of 3 pieces that's meant to help. All 3 pieces have been around Fallwood Barrow. I have one. Your brother carries the other 2.
Hackless.
He went into, I believe, Wolfgang said the name was Malatesh. Something warding a creature called Malatesh in Fallwood Barrow.
Yes, the way he tells stories is different. But that sounds familiar.
Is he still with us?
Yes, but it has been some time since I've seen him. He likes to do his own thing, let's say.
Is he, if we need to get in contact with him, would there be a way for us to do so by conventional means, or is he... Do you currently not know his location?
If you wish to communicate with him magically, I'm certain it would be fine as long as he's on plane.
I might have a better way. I think Hackless might be the key to a number of our problems.
Or the start, if I'm going to be honest, but...
But what's been going on here? I've seen so much damage that's been done, but I only have bits and pieces.
It has been a very eventful few decades since you left. Shortly after the destruction of the overgrowth, we started noticing people going missing. When we tried to contact our allies in the north, none of our missives were received. Eventually, people in our own Northlands, close to Silver Rock, started disappearing as well.
Does this have anything to do with the revolution that Palito was running?
His hand can still be felt everywhere, though nobody's seen him since what you described.
So he was lost in the void.
These devils and demons, they started appearing, and soon their numbers grew and grew, until we had a war on our hands. In some of the early battles, they overtook Silver Rock and commandeered the soul cannon. Lord Hresh was killed, felled by the demons and the cannon. We managed to take it back for a time. The war lasted nearly 15 years. As we grew more and more desperate, Lady Tia started wondering what could be done, if anything could be done, to sway the war in our favor. A traitor got in her ears. Therodoc Firefang. He convinced her that with her power, they could bend the will of Needhog, turn him, either bring back the person he once was, or at least bend him to the will so that we would have a weapon. I tried to convince her otherwise, but... well, she was betrayed.
shortly thereafter, more draconids rose from that mountain, and Nidhogg grew enraged, tired of the battling on what he called his land. He burned everything and created the desolation, claiming it for his own. It became a no-man's land. But the demons, they controlled the caves beneath the earth. And they used those to attack. And it took many more years to close off all of their entrances. Dragon's Rest, when they attacked here, it was all we could do to push them back and seal off their way. There aren't many people left here anymore. And the king is despondent. He's out in the front with our armies, flying any which way he can to try to put down any problems that might arise, but he's lost his will.
Apart from just finding a way to go back and change this, is there anything that the four of us can do to help? Well, Veneer stops for a minute. 3 of us.
Honestly, I don't know. So much has happened. We fight just to survive these days. But there was one plan. With intel we were given from some very brave people. We learned at the very core of the demon army's floating fortress is the former Archmage. His very power used to fuel the station itself. Currently, an operation is being worked out to liberate him from the core, which might cripple that very army. I could not ask you to... If you believe there is a way to stop this from happening, to change it all, then I need to ask if there's anything I can do to help you.
The first thing that we would need to do is to find Arcanos. I have a theory of how to find him, although it will be difficult. But a thought has occurred to me, something from a long time ago. Do you still have your grandmother's spell book, Ven?
Yes.
Has the last resort been attempted yet? The spell that we stopped Loxley from stealing so long ago.
Not yet. As of right now, it is beyond my capabilities to cast. There aren't many who can.
Demir gives a slow nod. I think that if we try to do this, it's going to be a hellacious battle to get us back through. No doubt we'll need some time for preparation. We've been going through and fighting through for quite some time. We may need a little bit of time to prepare, to be ready. But we're willing to help. At least I'm willing to help you out however I can. I can't speak for Nora. I can't speak for Wolfgang. But if it'll help out, it'll help. If it'll help both of us out, I'm willing to try.
It's been some time. You were studying dream magic last we spoke.
Dinir gives a nod. I've become exceedingly more proficient in it. I dove into the mind of Fezziwig Grinspire.
You can see her kind of grimace at the utterance of that name. As both of her hands go to her stomach.
I was the one that went into his mind to try to secure what information we could. I was the one that set off the trap. I think that if I'm able to get back into the dream realms, I might be able to help with the sorcerer issue. If they're turning during their dreams, if they're turning in their sleep, then I believe that means that somebody's attacking them while they sleep. Attacking them via the plane of dreams. That might give them a chance.
If it wouldn't be a bother.
I'll at least take a look and see what's going on when I have the opportunity. What information do you need from us?
What is it you need to get back in time? Is it wish? If it is, then... well, the only way I know how is to liberate the Archmage.
I don't think that any of us have the capability of casting it, but the
As
Archmage...
I said, the Archmage would be able to, and if he is imprisoned the way he has been reported to have been, he would be the one who could.
Have you ever heard of a traveling bar called the Wandering Weasel?
Of course.
Do you know where it's located currently?
No.
The two people that I know that have locations to be able to get to that bar is Miguel Connolly and your brother. As far as I'm aware, they both have keys to be able to find that location.
Elliot possesses the key now.
That might help.
I'm not sure if it will.
How so?
Wolfgang, back to you. Boy, these are easy cuts. During the cutaway, he basically told you that there was a girl that took care of him the many, many times he got beat up. He tended to his wounds.
She's expecting now.
Huh. Wow.
If it's a boy, I was going to name it after... No offense, but Miguel. If it was a girl, I was going to name it after Mother.
What do you know about her?
I can't explain it, but... I can still remember her face. I don't know how. It comes to me in dreams sometimes. Other than that, only what Jamaat had told other people to tell me. What was she like?
Passionate, fierce. She knew how to break me down and build me right back up again, like no one I've ever seen. Beneath it all, she was kind, though. She was always lending a helping hand to those less fortunate than her. That's part of what I wanted to keep alive about her. One of the reasons I still do what I do. Throughout everything, she knew that my work was important. And despite what she was, she wanted me to keep going. She taught me that not all beasts are monsters.
Sounds like a good woman.
I don't think I'll ever find anyone to replace the hole she left in my heart.
I suppose I know how you feel now. There's nothing on this whole rock that's more important to me. Not yet, anyway. Soon, though. I mean, she's fit to burst. I mean...
I didn't get a chance to see her before, you took me up here, but...
Oh, she knows you. She told me plenty of stories.
Well, we've had a couple run-ins. Takes another swig. Hands the decanter back to him. Well, I guess congratulations are in order.
Thanks. How'd you do it, by the way? Just, what was it like when... Just a little me?
Well, you're a bit of a unique case, being an infant with incredible power is a bit of a chore, even with your mod around. But I loved you so much I managed to get through it.
Suppose I'll find my way too then.
Of course you will. You're my bloody son.
I guess I fucking am.
You take after your uncle too much, though.
He kind of looks over to you.
Uncle Fuck.
You remember why, of all the bloody things you could, you remember Asmo.
Best sword instructor I ever had.
What?
He looks back at you.
Taught me how to wield a blade.
He sort of like sits up a bit more straight and leans forward towards him.
I mean, a little more improvisationally than some of the army's finest, but...
Asmo's here.
Aye. I mean, not here.
Where is he?
He points his finger up north towards a very, very distant pillar of smoke.
If I were to wager a guess, probably at the side of his commander.
His commander.
Begrudgingly, maybe. Maybe duty-bound, I don't really know.
What? I'm sorry, you cut out. What did you say?
Begrudgingly, maybe. Duty-bound, maybe. I don't really know his motivations. But he's up there with Needhog. He's the reason I was able to learn to deal with my lycanthropy. He'd send us missives from time to time letting us know about patrol patterns, if we ever needed to slip through. He's been incredibly invaluable up there. Also a source of much information.
So Asmo's out there working as a double agent right now.
We're all doing our best to make this world a better place. For our own reasons.
Oh, damn. I'm just glad he made it back alive. Nar will be happy to hear that.
He ponders that name for a moment.
Right. Never heard much about her. Except from him. Always wondered where she went off to. Where all of you went off to. If you survived at all.
Well, now you know.
Now I know. So, if I were to entertain that idea of you turning everything back, what would that entail?
You'd have to talk to my cat man, Denier. He's the one who knows the most about all of this magic stuff. He has a direct connection to Arcanos and his teachings, and if anybody would know how to get us back, it's him. Right now, all I know for sure is that we need to find Tommen Apombus.
The weasel guy.
Right. He said he'd still be around here somewhere. Fastest way I know how to get to the Wandering Weasel is through a magic key that I entrusted to Miguel.
He reaches into a like his breast pocket and pulls forth a sleeping weasel key.
What is that?
It's a key that Uncle Miguel left me. Cousin Miguel, whatever.
You said sleeping weasel. It looks different.
Yes. Anytime that the key is active and the bar is open, the eyes are open.
Oh.
It's been inert for as long as I can remember. But you're free to have it. You said it belonged to you.
I bought the thing, but if it's inert, then we'll have to go and do this the old-fashioned way. We'll just have to go out and find him.
For that, you'll probably need the Grand Sage.
Grand Sage.
He seems to have a lot of information. Whenever you're looking for something very specific.
Oh. You're talking about that silver kobold? Or the platinum one?
Oh,
The the monks.
No. Master Wookie runs this place.
Ah. That one.
And he's
Show off.
not entirely... His methods are different. But he did help me hone my powers. Although, if the Grand Sage is too hard to find, I suppose there is another way.
And he kind of stands up and looks at the large pyre.
And two birds, one stone. This will 100% solidify whether or not you're actually my father. Or whether I've just been wasting my fucking time in tears.
I just look at the direction he's looking. Oh, jeez. I'm gonna get sunburnt again, aren't I?
A little bit can be good for you.
Kind of slaps you on the shoulder as he runs towards the flaming pyre at the center of Platinum Peak.
He just sort of shrugs and puts his hat back on, and he runs after him.
And as you see him disappear into the fire, you take one deep breath as you can feel the heat radiating. You take a leap in. And here's where we'll end today's session.